Hey everyone! This time we read The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask by Gabe Durham. So Gabe starts with a story of how he became a fan of Majora's Mask, and it revolves around the CreepyPasta Ben Drowned. Now if you haven't heard of Ben Drowned, it's a pretty old creepypasta at this point. It's really fascinating. It has to do with this guy finding a cursed copy of the N64 game Majora's Mask and basically having a save file on it, which isn't surprising for a used game. But this save file can't be deleted, and no matter what he does, he always keeps basically getting the save file kind of like blurs into his game, so he's always being called Ben. And when he tries to delete the save file, the game starts acting really weird and crazy. And it turns out the game was owned by a kid named Ben who had drowned, and that's kind of a bad telling of the story, but that's kind of the story in a nutshell. So I kind of like the way that he starts off by telling this story because it leads into something later on that he gets into where we talk about like people interpreting texts or people interpreting media and kind of coming up with their own way of seeing things. So we also get some history about the game, how it was made, what were the circumstances behind it, who were the people that made the game, just the regular stuff you would find in a book like this or in really any book that examines a video game. That's all really nice and everything, and I do appreciate it being here, but the two parts that I found really interesting was the talk about interpretation, where he gets into fan theories and some other stuff as well, and also when he talks a little bit about translation. So the first part that I want to talk about is where Gabe gets into the fan theories and everything. And one, I really like at least most fan theories, especially the ones around Majora's Mask, where they try to kind of figure out why the game is set up the way it is, and they look for different symbolism within the game. Some of the fan theories obviously can get a little bit weird, and Gabe thankfully doesn't go into the really weird ones. He kind of sticks with the 5 stages of grief one, and also a few others to kind of explain them in like the simplest terms, because you can really fall down a rabbit hole, which I've done on another book about Majora's Mask. We also get the developers' thoughts on the fan theories, and also their thoughts about being asked constantly about the fan theories, which I found pretty interesting, because most of them is, as they point out, were not thinking about this stuff. They were just trying to make a game, and, a lot of the fan theories came up afterwards, and they were just sort of like, we're just trying to make a good game here. We were not thinking about that when we were making this. Within that, they go over like the Zelda Timeline, which if you try to lay out a timeline for Zelda, it's confusing, it's strange. Even Nintendo doesn't really know. They laid out their own in the Hyrule Historia, and even in that, they were kind of like, maybe, like this might be it. Gabe uses this to kind of talk more about how people interpret text and how people interpret different things, like movies, video games, books, you name it. Everybody is going to look at something just a little bit different, and it's important to know how you're looking at it just so you can kind of explain it to other people, or how you can see why your interpretation of something is different from somebody else. And I think it's important to note that fan theories aren't all, like, there's no right or wrong in fan theories. It's just your own specific reading of what you actually have in front of you. So if you come up with a theory on a video game or on, a movie or on a book or any other type of art or media, you're not necessarily wrong. It's just the way you think about it. I mean, heck, even the authors, directors, and whatever, the people that made these like works of art or books or movies or video games or whatever, sometimes they don't even know. They're just, we wanted to make something entertaining and people like it. They're usually not really looking for any deeper meaning in any of this stuff. So the next part that I found really interesting was the talk on translations. And Gabe talked to the guy who translated Majora's Mask and kind of localized it, really. So It's a really fascinating read, and I'll try to do it justice because there's a lot that goes into just translating something like this. So the Majora's Mask script was really complex. You had all the different reactions to Link where he's wearing a different mask. They had to come up with a way for the person to kind of address him when that was going on. You have this big branching story where you have just a whole bunch of weird stuff that goes into it, and you have words that don't necessarily mean the same thing in Japanese and in English. And that's some of the weird things that you have to kind of work out. It's a really fascinating thing to go through and actually examine, and it's something that I really recommend that you read. If you don't even read anything from this book, definitely read the part on translations in here. He also gets into some of the things that he kind of had to put his own spin on when it was being translated, and this sort of comes to something that's really important. When you're translating, especially a basically a non-English text, something that doesn't use like the English alphabet, you need to kind of work out how those different words are going to fit together. Because just translating a word saying, well, hello, welcome, to this place, or something like that, there's a lot of different ways you can say that. And especially with Majora's Mask, it's very interesting the way he does it, where he adds a bit of creepiness to it. It's something that I really find interesting, are the different translations, and it's kind of great to read about, someone who's way better at translating things than I am. It's really cool to read this stuff, especially for me. So just like with any creative work, there are going to be different things that people take away from it. And these are just some of the things that I took away from reading this book. I really like the part about translations, and I really like the part about talking about fan theories and different interpretations of especially Majora's Mask, but just kind of the broader talk on that as well. That was really exciting for me to read. So that's going to wrap it up, guys. I really like this book. It's a really great read. Definitely pick it up if you get a chance. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and definitely if you've read this book, let me know what some of your favorite parts are. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later, and have a great day, everyone.